Today, we celebrate the Lord's resurrection, coming back to life after those nasty and mean people had killed his body. There are a few things in particular that are useful or important for us to notice in the story about this. First of all, it's remarkable that Mary Magdalene and the other women who came to anoint the Lord's body not only found the heavy, big stone that was blocking the entrance to the tomb rolled away, but then they saw this man in a long white robe standing on the right side. What does it say about the women? They were alarmed. They were scared. Of course, we know that this was an angel, but the women didn't know that, not at first. In fact, the Gospel of Mark never says this man was an angel. But it says that they went out quickly and fled from the tomb, for they trembled and were amazed. And that they said nothing to anyone, but they were afraid. So, who do you suppose these women thought this man was? A grave robber, perhaps? One of the scribes or Pharisees? One of the nastier priests from the temple, still all dressed in his white robe? Do you think that they expected perhaps to find the Lord's dead body in Galilee, where maybe somebody had taken it? Of course, they would soon learn the truth, that the Lord really had come back to life, and that the man they had seen was an angel from heaven, sent to comfort them and remind them of all the things that the Lord had said, telling them that this would all happen, predicting it. Then again, in our next reading from Luke, we find that two of the disciples walking along the road to Emmaus, leaving Jerusalem, had a long conversation with the Lord until late in the day, and it was time to rest and go into an inn somewhere. At one point, they even called him a stranger. They didn't recognize him. They didn't know who he was, thinking he must have not known what had happened in Jerusalem in those recent days. So we see here that the Lord appeared to them just like an ordinary man, and because they weren't expecting to see him, they had no idea who he really was. Even though they had just spent 3 years with him, following him all around the country, listening to his beautiful teaching, watching him do great miracles, they just didn't get it. So what can we make of all this? What can we learn from this part of the story? Well, maybe one of the most important things we can learn is the fact that angels are people. Angels are people, just like us. And that we don't really change very much after our natural bodies die. We just continue living in the spiritual world in spiritual bodies that look and feel exactly the same as before. What's different is that the spiritual body the Lord gives us appears exactly the way our thoughts and feelings appear. Strong and healthy, if our thoughts and feelings are strong and healthy, or weak and sickly, if our thoughts and feelings are weak and sickly. And because angels are people who have learned to be strong and healthy from the Lord, they appear that way to one another, strong and healthy. And they also appear that way to people who need their encouragement or who need support from the Lord, who sends them. You see, if our thoughts and feelings, it is our thoughts and feelings that really make us human. It's not the body alone. It's the thoughts and feelings that form a body for us. So when humans leave their natural bodies at the time of their death, they just keep on living in their spiritual bodies, seeing, hearing, talking, touching, doing everything else we do on earth, but more perfectly than ever before, because nothing gets in the way. Not time, not space, not obstacles. It's spiritual. Now this was the same with the Lord himself. When his natural body died on Friday before Easter, it wasn't long before he began to appear to people in new ways in his spiritual body, which looked like any ordinary human body, but actually was the body that he had created for himself by living exactly according to the teachings and the love that he found in the Word. He came to be the personal form of the Word in flesh. Again, the disciples didn't recognize this body at first because they still didn't really understand the Lord's love or his wisdom. But as he explained it to them again and again, day after day in the resurrection, gradually appearing and disappearing, walking through closed doors even, gradually they began to get it and to realize how infinitely great and powerful he is. So it's the same for us today. When we think of the Lord, we may think of him at first as if he were an ordinary man, especially good and wise, but not really the God of all the universe, someone who surely must be neither male nor female, but infinitely too great for us to even comprehend. But then gradually, as we think about his life, his miracles, his very deep and powerful teachings, and most of all when we think of his amazing love and care for all that is good and true in human life, gradually we can begin to see him in his divine humanity, in his glorified spiritual body. And we will realize that this man, this perfect man, can do for us what no other man or woman could ever possibly do. And that is to lead, and guide, inspire, and encourage, protect, and defend us from all evil, including the evil we find within ourselves, if we will simply trust in him and remember and do the things that he teaches. This ends the first part of our message today. Now please join me in our next hymn.